In this episode of The Full Nerd, more Core Wars. And NVIDIA says, no GeForce for you. And Core i7 8086K. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 54, live from Taiwan and San Francisco. I'm your host, Gordon Maung, with the stellar reporter, Mark Hockman.
Ni hao.
What's crazy is he is on the opposite wall of me back there. I'm in this room.
We're in adjoining rooms.
The internet, right? And, of course, Adam Patrick Murray is controlling the vertical and horizontal.
I had to get up early for this because you guys are on the other side of the world. You're staying up late. I'm getting up early. But really what I want to hear about is food. You know, how you guys eating over there? I heard a lot of dried fish.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, that's my go-to survive Computex snack because you're holed up in your hotel room. You got nothing to eat. So I go to 7-Eleven. Which is awesome here, not like in the U.S., although we got our big gulps. Well, there's just not as much food as at 7-Eleven. All you got is a hot dog that's been spinning on that thing for like 6 months.
There's no jerky.
The food is better here, and I get this like dried fish. I'm on the fourth bag, and believe me, I'm over it. I'm definitely over it. So
you should come out with
Taiwan is awesome.
We went to the dumpling place tonight, the Michelin star one. Yeah.
How was it?
It was good. It was like I'm not a big fan. I mean, I've not really had dumplings before, and it was fantastic. They had one that was like I don't know, 6 blocks away from our hotel. Yeah, we didn't even have to go to Taipei 101.
It's in the Michelin Guide. That's crazy.
Yeah,
for dumplings. So, nice. Was it expensive?
It was. We spent like $50 for two people dinner. It was great.
Oh,
yeah, it was fantastic.
That's not
super expensive.
Yeah. Let me guess. Was that Dan's pick?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well, actually, you know what happened? No? We actually ran into a place and it was closed, and then we were looking around on Yelp and just happened to find, look at that. It's there. So, yeah, it was great.
Man, perfect. I'm jealous.
Oh, you know what the cool thing is? Everybody watching this stream right now is saying, we don't care about what you're eating. We want to hear about what Intel and AMD are beefing over, because it is a serious beef, right?
I mean,
Mark can tell us. Because you gotta this is like an Avengers movie. You gotta we gotta go back to step one here.
Yeah,
Mark's gonna tell you how this all started yesterday.
All right. So, anyways, so we had first of all we had a little pre-brief actually, and Intel sort of just ran the stuff down for us. So some of the stuff actually that we have wasn't actually in the keynote address. The keynote address, first of all, was like an hour and 15 minutes, and it was just like bang, 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 bang. There was so much news, and I mean, it started out with, let's actually, I think we just decided we're just going to get to like the good stuff right now. So it's just 20. So they sort of ended it on a note where they're going to say sort of a one more thing. And Greg Bryant comes out and says, I'm going to show you some process that we haven't shown you before. And he pulls it out, and it's 28 cores. And everyone was just sort of just mouths dropped open. And not only was it 28 cores, it was 28 cores that was a real thing. And then he sits up there and he actually runs Cinebench on it. And Cinebench completes in like 5 seconds. I think the score was 7,500.
Off
I think
the charts.
We settled upon. Yeah. And
7334, I think, was the
7334. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those situations where you had to sort of pay attention and it was going to be done. And, they said, we found out later that this 28-core chip is apparently a 5 gigahertz chip. And I think we concluded that every core on it ran at 5 gigahertz, which, I don't know, it's probably not sustainable in the long run. And then the story got even weirder because, and this is something that you were following, sort of AnandTech sort of chimed in.
Yeah, so Ian Cuttress, the world famous Ian Cuttress over at AnandTech, got an exclusive hands-on with the platform they actually did the Intel demo with. It is not what people sort of thought it might be, which is LGA 2066. It is, in fact, LGA 3647, which is a full-on server socket that Intel has for
and that board was
$10,000 CPUs.
But it's not Xeon.
No.
Well,
as far as we know, yeah. I mean, it's for the PC.
Intel would say, in Intel's messaging to me when I say, "Oh, these are just Core i9 or just remarked Xeon parts," Intel says, "Hey, you say that, but you know what? The consumer, the Core i9, Core i, we get our input into it. So like enterprise customer servers, they don't care about single threaded performance, but Core i9, we actually said, hey, we want this feature in the CPU that if it's 2 or 3 threads, jack those clock speeds up, right? So you got the best cores, there are a lot of features that are very consumer focused. So it is unfair for all of us cynics to say, oh, it's just remarked Xeon, because they really are off the same line, but they have specialized features that appeal especially to consumers. So
what kind of cooling?
Stop your hating.
What kind of cooling were they using during that demo?
Yeah, that's the insane part too, right? So Ian from Anantech, who I'm going to credit because he got the details on this. I haven't seen this anywhere else. He had pictures, very believable, where he did it. I'm not saying, but it's not being publicly disclosed. They used a 1 horsepower water chiller and water cooling, which is the equivalent of 1,700 watts of TDP cooling.
Oh.
Right. So a standard 240 millimeter cooler is about 180 watts. Right.
No way. Wow.
Yeah.
So this is 1,700 watts.
Yeah,
to get all
it's
these
just
cores
insane.
5 gigahertz. So yeah, folks, don't expect to get this 28 core Intel part at 5 gigahertz on all cores all the time. It ain't gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen.
Absolutely not.
Well, listen, one of the coolest things about Threadripper was that photo, where you could see how huge it was in your hand. Did they do that as well? Like, hey, look how many cores are in the palm of my hand.
They did hold the chip up. I was actually in the very sort of the upper echelons in the nosebleed seat, so I couldn't really see from my perspective how big it was. Somebody who was there closer might have had a better look at it, but I didn't, unfortunately.
Okay.
But
so
I
think
you can imagine, right? You can imagine how large this chip is. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's huge actually. If you go and you do a search for LGA 3647, it is again a public socket. It is used in Xeon Platinums, $10,000 CPUs. It's massive. It looks like it's actually bigger than a Threadripper part, which as you know is huge. It's like as big as the trackpad on a laptop almost. So this new 28 core Intel part is going to be huge.
Yes, right? And we haven't even talked about price yet. So we can imagine what that's going to be.
We don't know what the price is, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what the price is going to be. But the crazy thing, of course, this is where it gets off the rails. Intel breaks out 28 cores. Everybody goes nuts, right? Because this is insane, 28 cores.
Yep.
And what happened today?
Oh, you're telling me? Yeah, AMD just dropped the mic. I mean, we thought 28 core. I mean, we thought 28 cores was going to be it. We thought that was going to sort of top Comdex or top Computex. We'd all go home, and then AMD comes out on stage and really doesn't have a whole lot to say. But what they had to say was amazing. 32 core 2nd gen Threadripper, and everyone was just like, I mean, they were audible like people were just going, wow. I mean, I think everyone was just saying that. I mean,
there was a gas. There was really a gas.
There definitely were gas. Absolutely. Yeah. People are just amazed by this. And who wouldn't be? I mean, and it's not just, it's as far as we know, it's they said they're going to have multiple versions. We know there's going to be 28, but they're also going to have 32. 24, sorry.
24.
34, yeah, right. Yeah, 32 and 24. So we're going to have two. We're going to have the cheap version, and then we're going to have the more expensive version. But I mean, come on. I mean, this is just who saw this coming? I mean,
no
one. Absolutely no one.
I mean,
so
people were hoping, right? They wanted it, but
absolutely. Yeah. Now, I mean, we don't know, as far as I know, I don't think we know the clock speed of the 2nd gen Threadripper, do we?
Not confirmed. I will say, so we don't know the clock speed.
Right.
I believe the TDP that I've been told is 250 watts. But So again, I'm going to credit again, Ian Cutchers from AnonTech. Go to anontech.com, read Ian's coverage. You gotta do that internet if you're going to talk about somebody else's work. Go there, read his stuff.
Yep.
He has got information that I have not seen anywhere else. I think it was a base clock of 3 gigahertz, and the demo chips, the demo CPUs, were I think 3.4. They did a 24-core demo, and they did a 32-core demo, and it was like 3.4 and I think 3.6 their clock speeds. But pretty reasonable for what you would expect out of a 32-core CPU. And I will say, when AMD did its demo, it used its new Wraith Ripper cooler.
Yeah, this is air-cooled.
Yeah, it's completely air-cooled, although it's a beefy air cooler. It's got 12 heat pipes, rated for 250-watt TDP. But they did theirs air-cooled. AMD says, hey, we want to give people an idea of what you're going to really be able to get. Yep. Clearly, Intel's, unless they really think they can hit 5 gigahertz on all cores on 28 cores, is not going to be what we're going to see.
Yeah, somebody in chat did say, hey, AMD did it on air. Got 32 cores on air.
That's right.
But real quick, was the cooler a Prism? Did it have cool RGB,
It is. In fact, it's RGB. The logo's RGB, and it's got 2 long strips that go through it.
I mean, that's all that matters, sold.
Yeah. Same socket, too, by the way. TR4 socket. Yep.
Yeah, TR4. It is compatible with TR4. It is quad channel memory, which we can sort of get into as well, but and mostly compatible with the existing motherboards. There are some concerns over power issues, but for AMD's, as said, hey, it's going to drop in. You're going to do a BIOS update, drop it in, it'll go. And interestingly, every single TR4 motherboard supports USB BIOS updates, so you could actually buy a TR4 motherboard, get a 2nd generation Threadripper, just update the BIOS through using a USB key. You don't have to boot it up. You don't have to get a CPU from your friend or have AMD send one to you to update, and you'll be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Ruru2's asking, isn't the Intel chip 6-channel memory?
Yeah, 6 channels. So, and again, I swear, Ian was Johnny on the spot here again. 6 cores or 6 channel, and he's saying he thinks these motherboards are going to be like $1,000, and the entire platform he's guesstimating is about 10 grand. I got a hard time believing that Intel's going to go to market with a $10,000 build.
I mean, they look pretty stupid. Like that would kind of take the wind out of it. Of like, all these cores, $10,000.
Well, but you got to figure they could almost justify it, except for what happened this morning, right? Because no one really saw 32 cores coming out of AMD today. That just blew everybody away.
So Rusty Shackelford, a friend of the show on YouTube's asking, could this potentially be a hint for what to expect for other Ryzen processors in terms of core count? Do you think Ryzen, 3rd gen Ryzen, whatever it'll be called, that pushes core counts up? And I mean, we just getting this crazy core war. Keep going.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding with Threadripper, the 2nd gen stuff, is that normally it has 4 cores there, and 2 are not dummies, but not necessarily populated. Right. So these with Threadripper, the 2nd gen, 2 dies. So with the 2nd gen stuff, it's got all 4 taken care of.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I don't. That's a good question, actually. I'm not really sure if the Ryzen stuff.
Did they update any Infinity Fabric? 2.0. Infinity Fabric 2.0.
No, still the same stuff. Yeah.
No, it feels like this is pretty much a part that, is basically a Threadripper with all 4 dies, hot, all 4 dies with 8 cores apiece, all activated. So, and interestingly, we did an interview with Jim Anderson of AMD, and he said this was always in the roadmap. So clearly they wanted to do this part. They didn't know when they would do it, but they're doing it now. So.
I mean, the AMD and Intel are kind of being forced down this road, though. I mean, because you sort of have a cap on clock speed, and so the only other vector is additional cores. And I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that people need that kind of thing. I mean, again, with single-threaded games being sort of the chief focus for people. But I mean, if you've got you only have a limited number of axes of competition. So you've got to come out with that product, even if somebody doesn't buy it.
Right. And then, this is not, honestly, I love the idea of a 32 core machine.
Sure.
It's not what everybody's should run out and buy, right? So, but
no.
Of course, Intel and AMD would say, hey, we got 8086K and we got Ryzen 2, 2700X. You could go buy those. You don't have to buy this. But for a 3D, I swear to God, it's like, I wish I were a 3D animator right now. Because
yeah. But I mean, that's in some sense that's a good segue to what the Anniversary Edition is, because I think that's a much more has much more mainstream appeal. I mean, so and one of the things that Intel is announced here at Computex, for example, was the Anniversary Edition. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary this summer, and we should expect, I would imagine, a number of events and a number of products surrounding this. But this is sort of the big one, and it's named after the 8086. Which is sort of their processor that put them on the map. I mean, they were a DRAM supplier for a long time, decided to go the microprocessor route, went with the 8086, and then sort of the rest is history. And so they've got the Core i7 8086, which is an 8th gen core. We don't know exactly what architecture it's going to be running on, but it's 6 cores, 12 threads, base clock speed of 4 gigahertz, turbo clock speed of 5 gigahertz. Which sounds honestly like a great chip. I mean, if I was in the market for a high-end PC, I mean, I would probably, sure, I'd love to have Threadripper too, obviously. But if I was, buying it myself with my own money, I think the Anniversary Edition would be a great one to own. The nice thing about this, though, of course, is that maybe I don't even have to own it, because Intel is going to give away 8,800 or 8,086 of these things. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be giveaways, contests, maybe, vendors, that type of thing. But yeah, if you're in the market, I guess you have to pay attention to Intel, because they'll probably be, offering one up for not an auction, but just for a giveaway at some point in time. Maybe here.
And it is a 6-core part, which I sort of expected Intel to push out an 8-core part here at Computex, but this is a 6-core 5 gigahertz part. So
yeah. I mean, the 8-core would have been better. Sure, absolutely.
But I got to say, I think Intel's saving 8-core for the Core i7 8088K Special Edition, which you could almost argue 8088 is what really put them on the map. Because 8086 was too expensive. 8088 was the mainstream. Everybody had to have it. Everybody had it part, right? So 8088K might be important.
It was a Threadripper generation.
Yeah.
So we got a couple things on YouTube. James Francis is wondering, would you guys recommend him upgrading from a Threadripper 1950X to 2nd gen Threadripper? Like, is this for people who already own Threadripper, or should you skip on it?
I got to say, it depends on what you do. Clearly, if you bought a 16-core Threadripper because your work actually needs 16 cores, God, I can't, 32 threads, right? Yes, I would say, because now you have 32 cores, and I can't even, what is that? Whatever X amount of threads. I can't do the 64. Math. It's too late for me. I've had too much beer. And yes, definitely, again, if you are a 3D renderer, oh my God, could you imagine rendering something with 32 cores, 64 threads instead of, and it's crazy, but it seems like, wow, 16 cores, 32 threads feels like, oh, that's not enough now, So yeah, I do think, of course, all this is predicated on price. Now, that's one thing that no one knows, right? That's going to make or break both the 28-core Intel part and the Threadripper part.
Well, Ruru2 on Twitch is thinking the Intel part will be at 5,000 is his guess.
Sure. Start throwing darts.
Who knows?
Yeah. But seriously though, chicks dig Cinebench. So just buy it.
Nice. And on YouTube, Simon Liu is pontificating on. He's wondering if limiting Threadripper 2 to 1-channel memory per die will have any effect on performance. What do you think?
There definitely is going to be a hit, because again, let's credit Ian Cuttress at Anantech for hey, interestingly, remember Threadripper. There are 4 dies. There's 4 memory controllers, but it's really designed around 4-channel memory, right? So only 2 of the dies will get memory out, probably. So the 2 other dies will have to access main memory through the other 2 dies. So this is probably going to be a hit. How much will of a hit it'll be? I don't know. We'll have to see, right? And it will also vary from application to application. So
we also have somebody asking on YouTube clarification. Mac Drew 421. So no 8-core Intel Z390 chipset release yet. Anything on that? For
Intel?
Yeah.
No. I got to say I was a little disappointed. I was hoping for an 8-core part, but 8086K is a 6-core 5 gigahertz part, which interestingly, there had been people saying that a lot of the 8700Ks were cherry picked, and I got to say no, because they saved those cherry picked parts for 8086K, right? So,
yep,
the previous 8700K had a turbo boost of 4.7, which it really would sit at a lot of the times. And now the turbo on the 8086K is 5 gigahertz, so 300 megahertz, which is nothing to sneeze at. So,
just to go off on a little tangent, Manrique Daniel Mar Perez is asking, could we see this kind of the core count stuff for Ryzen? Could we see this kind of jump in Vega? Were they talking about Vega at all? Anything on the graphic card side from AMD?
Right. Well, yes and no. I mean, they didn't actually have anything to really talk about as far as graphics was concerned. I mean, everyone's, the question everyone wanted to know about graphics was, where's the new GPU architectures? What's coming down the pipe? So what they only showed, they had a couple of things. So what they were talking about in this today was the 7-nanometer Vega GPU. So really, that's not a consumer part at this point in time. They're really gearing that at the Radeon Instinct, the machine learning part. Lisa Su stood on stage and said, hey, look, we're going to have a part for you consumers at some point in time, but, when that's going to happen, we don't know. It was actually interesting because David Wang, who's their silicon chief at this point in time for Radeon, who took over when Raja left for Intel, he actually had a roundtable afterwards. And, one of the questions that I asked was, hey, look, and Gordon was there at NVIDIA's press conference, and NVIDIA didn't really have a whole lot to say about GPUs either. And so everyone asked, eventually asked him just, when is the next GPU architecture going to come down the pipe? And as Gordon reported, he said, I think his words were something like, it's going to be a while, or it's going to be a long time. I'm not sure exactly the phrase. Long time from now, yeah. So everybody, so we asked David Wang about whether, how long we was going to take before AMD came out with something. And he's sort of committed to an annual cadence of, a new product every year. Now, it could be a new architecture. It could be a new process technology. In fact, actually, it's funny because AMD right now is on a TikTok architecture or a TikTok cadence where you've got, one microarchitecture 1 year, then a new and then a new design, and then the next, process technology, then new microarchitecture, then new process technology, or tweaked to such, because they're going to 7-nanometer sort of plus in the future. And so, he said basically that that they had sort of lost their way in a little bit. I mean, he kind of blamed the Radeon Instinct for taking sort of attention and focus away from their core business of providing Radeon chips to consumers and gamers. And he said that's sort of, he kind of implied that that's over. I'm not sure if that means the Radeon Instinct is dead, because it's weird because, of course, the 7-nanometer chip is designed for that. But he seems to think, or he seems to be implying that, Radeon is going to be very consumer friendly going forward. Nothing about mining. It was all, the message was, okay, you're going to get a new part every year and it's going to be strictly for consumers. So, we'll have to see. But, this was Wang's first appearance, really, as a public appearance from AMD. And he really said all the right things, in my opinion.
Yeah, for consumers, that's really good news. Although I can't imagine them giving up the AI machine learning market, but
I can't either. It's an increment. It's one of those things just like NVIDIA, because NVIDIA loves these value added incremental markets they want to grow and add to their business. I can't imagine AMD is going to do the same thing too, especially when they have like EPYC, for example, which is a high margin part waiting in the wings. But I don't know. Maybe they'll just spend less resources on it. It's good to hear, anyways.
Although speaking of EPYC, that's the other thing that Lisa Su actually showed, right? She showed a 7-nanometer EPYC, CPU. So they're basically AMD is saying, hey, we're going straight to 7-nanometer for our next EPYC part, and our next dies, and they're all going to go into EPYC first.
Yeah, and EPYC is 32 cores, I believe, too. So I mean, that's sort of the corollary between Threadripper, the second gen Threadripper, and EPYC. I mean, that's how they're influencing the design.
And this all sort of ties back, right?
What? Now I have a question for you, because you talked to Jim Anderson. Is it second gen Threadripper or is it Threadripper 2?
Which Jim Anderson? We do have an interview, I believe. I haven't seen it. You did interview Jim Anderson?
Yes. Right.
Yes.
So people should go check that out.
I believe it's probably more correct to call it second generation Threadripper, although I'm not really sure. I mean, there's definitely a looseness with the terminology.
Well, it is on your shirt. It says second gen Ryzen Threadripper. So maybe it's second gen Ryzen, but Threadripper 2.
I'm going to show this off.
The truth is in front of us the whole time.
Yeah, right? Boom.
Yeah, so
right under our noses.
And AMD basically played this whole thing off as like a heavy metal rock concert. So that's why this T-shirt for Threadripper 2 is themed around a heavy metal theme. And on the back, if I were to turn around, you could actually see it looks like there's probably millennials won't understand this, but if you went to a Pink Floyd or Blue Oyster Cult concert, you would on the back get the, I don't know if you can see that or not. You get the shows and dates where it's going to show up.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And hey, the cool thing is, I'm going to mention it here again because
do it now.
People know. So this T-shirt that I am wearing, they call it a limited edition because there were only a few available. And this T-shirt is so rare that even AMD employees themselves were eyeing the one that I had because they did not get them. So basically a lot of analysts, media, and partners got this T-shirt. Super, super rare. So that tells you how super rare this T-shirt is.
Awesome.
And they were gone by the time I asked for one. I didn't think I was going to get one. So I got a small. I am not a small person.
That's going to be tough there. So, but wait. So the one thing though is, so this T-shirt, we have an even more collectible version of it. We got a second XL version of this T-shirt, and Lisa Su and Jim Anderson actually signed this shirt.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Dude, let me tell you, that's like, I was at the Van Halen concert, and I got Eddie Van Halen, and what's the other guy? What's the guy who left? But I got Eddie Van Halen.
Sammy Hagar.
Sign the T-shirt. Not Sammy Hagar. No. I can't think of his name, for God's sake.
I can't think of it.
The long hair. David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth. Yes, David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth. I got the shirt. David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen signed this concert T-shirt. Yeah. We're going to be giving it away.
Hold on, Gordon. We're going to be giving that T-shirt away.
Well, not this one because you don't want this one. I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing it correctly. Now, for folks that don't know, because I know a lot of millennials don't really go to a lot of heavy metal concerts. You buy your concert shirt, you wear it over the shirt you wore to the concert.
Yes.
That's what you do it. That's why I'm doing it that way.
There
now.
You go. Boom.
Yeah, so we are going to be giving an XL version of this shirt that is signed by Lisa Su and Jim Anderson. Yeah, basically Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth signed it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it'll be my job to set that up, so you'll have to check in. I just found out about it this morning, so I need to work with our legal team to set up the giveaway, but we will be running that giveaway as soon as we can, so keep tuned on YouTube, and we'll make the announcement or maybe the winner live on Full Nerd. So, yeah, keep an eye out on that for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have a real quick question on YouTube. Derek Morrison is asking, is there any new chipset talk for 2nd Gen Ryzen?
There is not, and I did actually ask, because Gamers Nexus, Steve over at Gamers Nexus basically said, hey, they were going to do Z490 here at Computex. It basically added more PCIe lanes, so sort of a beefed up version of the current chipset. But apparently, within the last 48 hours, Steve from Gamers Nexus says, it all came to a halt because of a limited availability of the PLX chips they needed to add the extra PCIe lanes. That also means it was also implied that there's a cost issue. It costs too much, they couldn't do it, and they can't get the chips. So apparently it was going to be announced at this Computex, and apparently it got scratched. I asked Jim Anderson, what's up with that? Jim Anderson said, properly, because he wants to keep his job. Never heard of it. Never heard of that part. Have we ever verified that part? Did you ever hear us say we were going to? Well, no, that's true. We never did. So it tells the internet how reliable leaks are.
No chipset news from Intel either. So
yes, nothing.
Yep. So, well, what are we going to talk about now? We got tons.
Although actually, I do want to ask you, Mark. So,
Sure.
It's interesting because you pointed this out.
Right.
You were pre-briefed on Whiskey Lake and Amber Lake, but Intel did not even mention that.
No, that was weird because when we had the pre-brief, we had this we had a look at Intel's sort of Tiger Rapids, which is their dual screen. They invited us into their design labs. And I don't know if anyone knows this. I wasn't really aware of it as well. But Intel actually designs PCs, and they have an entire concept lab where they have all of these concepts. And I think I can. Well, I'm not sure if I should say. Well, what the hell? So I've actually had a look at these things at a couple of different times. And they actually asked us in to sort of take a look at. Again, this Tiger Rapids concept, which you can read about. It's basically two-screen PC, and you might think to yourself, why do we need a two-screen PC? Well, one of them was actually a sort of a tablet, a folding tablet, which unfortunately means you have to type on glass, but let's not talk about that. And one of them was actually a very niche device, which was sort of you take a Moleskine notebook. And one was a tablet on one side, and the other was sort of a piece of sort of a it's late for
electronic
electronic
right?
paper. Thank you. Electronic paper.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Right. Yeah. So anyways, we're in there. We had time to talk about this, but we also had time to get pre-briefed. And yeah, that was the thing. They sort of ran down these list of announcements. And then they said, well, we're going to announce something we're going to tell you about, that we're going to have a new architecture for the holiday time frame. And oh, by the way, if you care, it's called Whiskey Lake and Amber Lake. And then, yeah, I don't really think they even mentioned it during the keynote. They might have mentioned in passing, yeah, we have a new architecture coming down the pipe at Holiday. But yeah, so officially we have Whiskey Lake and Amber Lake coming down in Holiday. And you might think to yourself, okay, it's 10 nanometer time. No, it's not. It's still 14 nanometer time, 14 nanometer plus. So and they actually gave us some
14 plus.
No, I think it's still plus. So that's what they told us anyways. So what happens is that so we have Kaby Lake R right now, and then Whiskey Lake is going to be sort of the replacement for that. And they're both U series, which means they're both 15 watts for I guess what we call them just traditional ultrabooks. Yeah, I always get a little confused. And then the Amber Lake is Y series, so that's those 4.5 watt super low power sort of
4M.
4M exactly. Yeah. That's right.
As we no longer call them anymore. They were Core M parts.
We do know a little bit about. We do know actually a little bit more though. We know that there's going to be 70 designs, and more importantly, actually, they're going to be. They said like 30%, 40% performance gains before when they're talking about like Kaby Lake to Skylake and so forth. This is double digit, and that's all we know. It could be 12%. It could be 30%. I'm guessing it's not going to be that much since we're talking about another 14 nanometer part. But who knows? So
could it be 50%?
It could be anything, but I don't think so. No. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think at this point we're expecting too much in the way of performance gains gen to gen. But maybe that's why they didn't want to talk about it at Computex. Maybe it was just like, we have so many other interesting things to talk about. Let's just leave that for the future.
Well, I gotta say that that 2-screen thing, you did a really awesome video on our YouTube. People should definitely go check it out because that was
it worked out well.
So.
Well, it turned out that we have 2 designs here at Computex based upon that. We have the really cool one, I think, is Project Precog, which is a ASUS, and that's a really shiny piece of glass, and it looks like it's basically like 2 14-inch screens on a hinge. And again, it doesn't seem that practical to actually use, because I really think you'd have to hook up an external keyboard. But at the same time, you got like you can have it in tablet, you can have it in sort of portrait mode or landscape mode, and it's one of those things that looks cool, even if you sit down and think for a second, you think, well, I'm not sure it's the most practical thing in the world. So just don't get past the cool, just stick with the cool bit. I mean, that's
So is it more Minority Report or more Westworld technology? Because Westworld.
Let's see. I think I've seen both, but I would say it's probably a little bit more Minority Report, because you're talking about sort of lay flat. They call it lay flat computing, which is kind of an interesting term. So yeah, I think it's probably again, it's not the most practical, because you sort of have to like put it like a book or hold it or flip it up or something of that sort. But God, it looks cool. It really does, especially Precog. It looks fantastic. It really, yeah.
And that, so we also have video on that as well.
We don't have video because they didn't have a chance for. They sort of had it. It was one of those things where it was behind a huge scrum. It was behind they had it beside sort of a fence, and you could sort of look at it. You couldn't touch it. So we don't really have video on it, but we have some nice pictures. So we were hoping to get video. And
was there barbed wire at the top of that fence?
No, it was kind of like a picket fence, actually. Yeah, but and it was all surrounded by these really nice polite Taiwan people, and so you didn't want to actually just grab it and run away. So.
Sometimes to keep the media out, you got to put that razor wire on top. It's like straight out of Pelican Bay. You got to you don't want media to cross.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to take it, then that would make Johnny Shi unhappy, and you don't want to make Johnny Shi unhappy. He's such a nice man. So yeah.
Cool stuff. Hey, we got any questions we got to clear, Adam?
Yeah. Well, Rusty, this was a while ago. Rusty was wondering, does your shirt offer overclocking for your gaming and workload performance boosts?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This shirt.
It's kind of like RGB. It makes things faster, right?
32. Whatever. What's that like when you get your sheets high thread count?
Oh, yes, like Egyptian cotton. Yeah.
300 threads or something like that. This is just 32 threads, but
that's pretty rough sheets. Oh. Yeah. So what else from Computex you guys want to talk about? I know. I know we have a great GeForce announcement, right?
Yeah, the GeForce announcement.
Yeah. Let's not leave NVIDIA out of this discussion.
Yeah, let's not leave it out, and we of course left that for last because basically Jensen. I went to the press conference where they had it. The best part of it was nobody had eaten lunch, and so what happened was Jensen basically they went and they bought every single thing in the snack bar downstairs, and then Jensen himself came out and started feeding everybody. Like he was, in fact, I have one. Yes, I have the Bread Force 1180. I was joking because it's like a pizza baguette that I have. I haven't eaten it because I'm like, I'm trying to save it because I got
That's
this.
True.
Yeah, you should have got it signed. We could have given it away.
Are you gonna give it away?
We could give it away. It might be moldy when people get it, but we could give it away. So he fed everybody, gave everybody food, cookies, and all kinds of stuff. They were just kind of like throwing food out because nobody had eaten. The bad news is that's the only thing we got really as far as for consumer stuff. A lot of it was AI machine learning stuff, cool stuff, wicked, but your chances of getting a GeForce card, there were predictions that might show up at Computex. E3, no way, looking like, not E3. So, what I really like is the internet rumor mills, every time they're wrong, they recorrect.
Right.
So now everybody's saying, well, it's going to be July. And the other thing I've also heard is like, well, now it's going to be August. And, hell, I'm going to throw September, November, and December into that, and 2019, because who knows at this point? Everybody's been so wrong over and over and over again, I wouldn't rely on anything.
Yeah, I thought people were so sure that we were going to see it at Computex or maybe even E3, you know?
Sure. I guess that too. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, everybody's wrong. I mean, the crazy thing is everybody keeps reporting that it's going to be here. It's going to be this date, August 22nd or something like that. That's what I've seen. But I can't really believe anything. And honestly, I wonder if this is a disinformation campaign by NVIDIA, right? Because
trying to throw people off.
The leaks have been insane for everybody. And NVIDIA really, it drives them crazy. So for all I know, like, hey, maybe they're letting these rumors go, or maybe they're letting some partners telling partners one thing, and even though it's incorrect, and then changing it just to get people mixed up. But, you know, eventually, if you were the boy who cried GeForce is coming too many times, eventually people don't want to listen to you anymore. So at this point, the boy has cried too many times. Villagers are down there like, hell no, we are not coming out for your GeForce announcement. We don't believe you, boy who cried GeForce is coming out. I wouldn't do it. So.
Well, somebody said they do have like a $100,000 graphics card they showed off or something.
Yeah,
there was a PC that was like $100,000, right?
Oh,
yeah, it's a full build. It's you know, I think it's like 2 petaflops or something. It's, you know, they're saying it's the most powerful computer in the world because, you know, it's basically tons and tons and tons of Volta cores that, you know, consumers aren't really getting. So not a consumer product. You know, again, it's a machine learning AI stuff. So. Fancy stuff, cool, awesome, but you know, I just wanted GeForce 1180 around to show up finally. So,
well, what other big things? Any big news announcements or anything cool from the show floor you guys want to chat about?
Well, we could go lightning round. Let's talk about a couple of things, just because I think they're worthwhile to mention. So one of the disclosures, one of the things that Intel announced was what they call Intel Low Power Display Technology, which is these fancy name for a 1-watt panel. You know, we've talked. You know, most of the people consider. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, like a night or two ago, actually. There really isn't too many detailed breakdowns of which component uses how much power within a PC. But for a long time, the display was considered to be a significant draw. And so what this does is actually they're working with Sharp and Innolux to go ahead and develop 1-watt panels, which apparently won't have any sort of problems with fidelity or anything of that sort. But they're going to deliver them they're going to be in PCs by this holiday season. The idea is that it's going to give you additional 4 to 8 hours of battery life, which seems amazing actually. But so the total would be sort of on the order of 20 hours, which really gets you into sort of Qualcomm Snapdragon PC territory, which is actually the other announcement, which is kind of interesting, that came out of Computex, because it was Qualcomm announced the Snapdragon 850, which is sort of a derivative of the 845 designed for the PC. So originally what happened was that Qualcomm had their Snapdragon 835 and designed a PC around it. And these always, what they call it, these always connected PCs. I actually have one with me. They're slow, and they're a little buggy. Yeah, they're a little slow and they're a little buggy. The battery life is absolutely fantastic, though. It's like 20 hours. I mean, I was using it on the plane, and it is amazing to be able to fly. First of all, I could have used it throughout my entire flight, which happened to be SFO to Vancouver, and then because we had a lug nut problem on my flight to Vancouver. Incidentally, I'm sorry, but you know, you can change these things. Formula One, NASCAR, they can change a lug nut and a tire in 5 seconds, literally like 5 to 10 seconds. It took 2 hours to get to Vancouver because they couldn't change the lug nut. We were watching them. They're taking the hydraulics. They couldn't make the hydraulics work. They had a manual. They're trying to manually get the lug nut off. That didn't work. We get to Vancouver, and then they say, you've missed your flight. You're going to Hong Kong. I was just like, oh my God. We get to Hong Kong. They reroute us again because our flight came in too late to get the connector to Taipei. It took me 28 hours to get here.
Oh.
not bitter.
Mark just wanted to get that off his chest,
yeah.
folks.
Yes.
I just want to yes.
But which airline did you fly, Mark, so people know not to fly?
Air Canada. They were polite. But no, my point is, though, I could have worked that entire 28 hours pretty much on that always connected PC.
Really?
And that's yeah.
Wow. Okay.
20 hours, 22 hours. I mean, that was the battery life was fantastic. And this actually is supposed to give you, let me just double check my figures. It's supposed to give you, what?
Go ahead. I forgot you are not mentioning the one important part about that connected PC, and that it will take you 28 hours to get your work done because it's slow.
Well, it runs Windows 10, so yes. But no, it actually has 20% more battery life, and it has, it has 30% more performance, so it's not going to be as slow. It's just going to be mediocre. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of this is the emulation layer, because I will say, to be fair, you really do get great performance out of these Qualcomm parts with Windows 10 as long as it's optimized code. But there's so much unoptimized code that you hit all of the time that it will, when you hit it, it will kill you, because it'll be like going 70 miles an hour down to 5 miles an hour back to 70 miles an hour. So it's really a jarring experience. And
you're stuck with Windows, or you're stuck with Edge. And I looked tonight, Edge has 6% browser share, Chrome has 60. I asked Microsoft about it. We had at a press conference, and she's like, well, it's a mode now, so you can switch to Pro. I don't know. My point is that most people don't like the S experience, and so you're not going to necessarily want to tolerate the Qualcomm PC. But if you do, the battery life is fantastic. I can recommend that highly. So
I got to say, though, this 1 watt panel on laptops, that's going to be a huge breakthrough. Because
it really is.
I remember reading a story about you. Ray Sonora was looking at the Surface Pro 4. He was saying, wow, this is a fantastic display. It is super power efficient compared to all the other panels we've seen. In fact, it was more efficient than the iPad Air at that time panel. And it was and that panel used 5 watts, right? So this is 1 watt of power.
Yeah.
And we're going to see an exponential increase in laptop battery life when these new 1 watt panels come out.
Yeah, you really are. Because, you have SSD power stepping CPUs and 1 watt panels. That's pretty much it right there. So,
Nice.
Yeah, everything. Yep. I'm looking forward to that.
For me, it was Computex is all about the. Oh, you want to go first, Adam?
I'm just going to say we got some random stuff, but no, go for it.
Oh, so for me, it was all about the crazy PCs, the mods here at Computex. This is the show for PCs. It is the showcase thing.
And you've been taking a lot of photos. People check out those out. They're pretty good.
Check those out. And the mods are incredible. Probably the one that had the most impact on me initially was the DeBauer. He has this incredible machine that is sealed up. So he uses, I think it's a 3M Novatech cooling liquid that if you were to leave it, if you left it exposed to the air, it would evaporate really quickly, apparently. So he seals the entire system up. And the motherboard that I saw, so the motherboard is flat. It's got about 2 inches of liquid in the case. So it looks a little bit like a fish tank. And what happens is the CPU doesn't even have a heat sink or anything. It just simply boils away the liquid. The CPU and the chipset boil the liquid away, this 3M Novatech, and then the liquid basically changes state into a gas. It goes straight up to the top, and on the top of the system, this crazy mod, he has mounted an air cooler. So he's mounted a water cooler, but on that part, he's exposing a heat sink. So this is all kind of cooled off through a water cooler. That liquid goes up from the boil. It boils off from the CPU, hits this, one cold spot in the system, which cools it off enough to turn back into a liquid, and then it drops back down into the liquid pool, and it just continually boils away, and it's a fully running PC.
It's like simmering my spaghetti sauce.
Yes, and it's incredible. And I got to say, this was wow, this is the best thing I've ever seen at Computex. The mods are awesome. Let's give them respect. But today I went by Gigabyte, and they had in their esports, show-off room, they had a machine that they had built themselves, which it's going to be a little controversial for some people, but it was a fish tank we've seen this before, which is a mineral oil PC. So it had a system and the video card, bathed in mineral oil. But to this, they added another tank. Well, not really a tank, but sort of a sectioned off part, which they then poured water into. So then there's a tank with mineral oil, and then it's walled off. So then there's on top of that, there's water. And here's the kicker: in that water were fish. And the fish were swimming around in the water. And because the water is lighter than the mineral oil, it doesn't mix. So you basically had water on top. And it was just like basically water, of course, floating on top of mineral oil. And they had the GPU underneath with a flexible, PCIe cable. And you could see, as the fans were spinning on the GPU, you could see the liquid ripple in the mineral oil. And then on top of that, the water would just ripple above it. So living things above it. It's going to be a little controversial things because you do feel for those fish.
Yeah, how warm are the fish?
I will tell you one very interesting thing about that is that fish poop is apparently lighter than mineral oil too, because that would just sit on the mineral oil.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
See?
There's other cool stuff too I saw, but
there's your lesson tonight for tonight, kids.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of liquid cooling, I guess over on Twitch, Prozone Layer is asking, did you get to check out those new liquid cooler from DeBauer and Cooler Master? What did you think?
I don't know if I saw the liquid cooler from him, but I did see the phase change one, tech, not a phase change, but the Cooler Master one. Are we talking about the Cooler Master one that has the thermoelectric cooler integrated into it?
I'm not sure. He didn't specify.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm guessing because it was kind of a cool design. Standard CLC cooler, but as you know, it doesn't ever cool it below ambient room temperature. So what Cooler Master did is they integrated a thermoelectric cooler into it. So and I had my thermal imager off, and it was about 10 or 15 degrees cooler than what you were getting out of a CLC. So pretty neat. But nice. There's a power cost, and is it really going to be practical? I don't know, but it's always nice to see a new thing attempted again.
Speaking of other coolers, Kindis is asking. Today he saw the cooler for the 32-core Threadripper. Is it passive? He did not see the fan. And almost 50% of it was covered.
Yeah, actually, the fan is inside. So basically, it had 12 heat pipes. There were 2 arrangements of each side in the fins, and the fan was integrated into the middle. It had, I think it was powered off of a SATA power, controlled by USB, and of course, it had a fan header on it. So, and you're not going to get it with Threadripper 2nd generation. This is an optional part. If you buy a Threadripper, you can also buy this if you're looking for a new cooler. The rationale by AMD, which does make a lot of sense, is like people are going to buy this chip. A lot of them are going to, water cool it, or they're going to do other kind of cool things. They're going to want their own cooler. But we wanted to make, Wraith Ripper for those customers.
Nice. Jeffrey Andrus is asking, did you see Vega Nano?
They showed it, but we didn't actually. I don't know. Did you actually see it sort of live and in person, Gordon?
Yeah. So that was a demo they did on the television. So they had their and it's the Power Color Nano card. They ran a game on it. I got to be honest, it was a little underwhelming, but I think it was just simply because the system came out of sleep or something, because the frame rates weren't exactly great. And then they switched immediately over to the Xbox with the FreeSync on a television, which looked a lot smoother. So not a good look for us, the PC, but I do think that was just simply a demo glitch. And I did see it, yes. And we also did see, interestingly, we saw Vega 56 in a laptop. So that was pretty cool, too, I got to say. Oh. We'll see.
All right. And this one for you, Mark. Sorry if you covered it already. Roadwish on Twitch is asking, anything new from ARM on desktop?
Actually, ARM had a press conference that we had to skip, unfortunately. So now the Snapdragon again was the one that we had that we covered that we looked at, and that was the 850. And just we didn't talk about that a huge amount, but basically, it's again 30% more performance, 20% more battery life. It's running at it's powered by 2.95 gigahertz Cryo CPU, which again isn't necessarily directly comparable to a Core, so the clock speed necessarily doesn't matter that much. And just to reiterate, so I'm not great on math, but we found that the Snapdragon 835 gave us about 17 hours, 22 minutes of battery life. So if you add, 20% on top of that, we're looking at an additional 3.5 hours, I guess. So, that's like 20, 21 hours of battery life. I mean, that would be fantastic. Again, the speeds are going to be an issue. But the other thing to consider too is that they've also upgraded their cellular connectivity a little bit. For me, gigabit speeds, gigabit LTE is good enough. For others, there's never enough. So for this, they've actually gone to 1.2 gigabits per second, again with support for more bands. So it's. As far as ARM is concerned, we look at ARM, or I look at ARM, and I have to give them, they are sort of the underlying architecture for a lot of the mobile CPUs that we see. For me, though, I tend to look specifically more at what Qualcomm's doing, what Samsung's doing with its Exynos, just because. I don't know. It just seems like, for me, ARM is a little bit too abstract when we're talking about the mobile space. I have to look at the individual CPU vendors to get more out of it. So really, if you're looking at the PC space, though, the Snapdragon 850 is going to be sort of the flagship ARM PC processor for the next year or so.
Nice. We have to wrap it up soon. But a couple more things. WDD3 Anything on YouTube's asking anything new from Fractal Design?
I didn't run into Fractal here. I should look them up. I did go, by maybe 4 different case vendors: Corsair, Fantex, NZXT. So. Yeah. Cooler Master went by Cooler Master too. I mean, there are a lot of, and InWin. I mean, everybody's here. I'm not sure Fractal was here because it's not necessarily their backyard, but I should see if they're at the show. I got tomorrow. I should run by there.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I know that Gordon focused more upon the case mods and so forth. I walked around the peripheral manufacturers and. Didn't see a whole lot. In fact, I don't know about you, but I thought that there were a lot of case mods that I didn't see at CES. But as far as sort of wacky component stuff, I think CES for some reason seemed to have more. I don't know why.
Huh.
Yeah, I did feel like the one thing that everybody is into, RGB just continues to just burn like a wildfire.
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
was pushing RGB. Everybody was pushing better RGB and saying why their RGB is better. There's a lot of compelling reasons for why. I saw Corsair's demo of their IQ software today, and I got to say, if I were building an RGB build, there's a compelling argument for going all Corsair, because the amount of control and the amount of simple control they were able to achieve with their new IQ software makes me go like, this is, if you want everything to just be pretty and easy, it's a way to go. And I also want to mention Thermaltake. I went by Thermaltake. They had a couple new cases, but the thing is, they have an RGB desk. They also have a new RGB fan, but they have an RGB desk for gamers. Yes.
Yeah. All right. A couple more. Rusty Shackelford's asking for that active pad technology. Does that count in between the actuation point and bottoming out of the keycap?
Oh, for the AimPad. So
yes.
Rusty's basically asking about the AimPad technology in the new Cooler Master, and they are writing me. I got the model number wrong. It is the MK850. I may have just gotten wrong again. Yes, MK850,
it's
I believe.
850, yeah.
Is it 850?
Yes.
Yeah, MK850 keyboard, and what it is there's about 8 keys. For people who don't know, there's about 8 keys on there that have an infrared sensor that senses depth. So what it lets you do is use those keys very much like an analog joystick on your gamepad. So if you press it halfway, it'll register you as sort of turning that wheel or joystick, just halfway. If you mash it all the way to the bottom, it it registers as a full turn. It's not. They're actually, as I understand it, they're not actually relying on the contact itself to register when it goes off. In fact, Cooler Master was telling me they were going to let you decide when you want it to activate. So you could say if you want a key press to be at, they can change the actuation, right? So you can have it lighter, you can have it heavier based on the software. Huh. But, got to remember, though, it's only on about 8 keys on the left-hand side. So it's not the entire keyboard. So you could potentially see in the future having all of the keys being aimpad technology. Mm-hmm. Then you can sort of change the actuation so where it kicks off. But this keyboard, not going to really let you sort of get a variable, actuation rate keyboard.
It's almost like they're catching up to console gamepads, weird. It's weird that took
or
this long
they're killing console gamepads, Adam. You don't need them anymore. You just do it with your keyboard, and then you can use your superior WASD and mouse skills. Yeah. And then you can drive your tank or helicopter using the analog pushes.
Well, I edited the video of you running that app player, yes. Where it had an Android on the laptop, and we saw how you did real good on that one.
You mentioned something actually that we I don't know. Again, one of the crazier things we saw at Computex was the ROG phone.
Oh yes, I'm excited about that.
That really, we got to talk about.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Because
so wait, what is it again, Mark?
So the ROG phone is they took, the Qualcomm 845, and normally you can go ahead and you just get the processor you get. But they actually bin split the 845 where they cherry pick the fastest parts, and so you get a processor that's actually, I think it's like 150 megahertz faster than an ordinary 845. They built it inside of a phone. They've got they have phase change cooling. They've got all this wacky, incredible stuff, and it looks fantastic. I mean, it looks like an overclocked gaming PC. It's just an ordinary. It's an ordinary 6-inch Android phone, but the weird thing of it is that it starts with a phone, but the peripherals they've got on it are incredible. I mean, they devoted so much time, effort, and resources to a first-generation product. I mean, not only do you have some sort of
cooling thing. Oh, that was crazy.
They've got an active cooler on the back. I forget on the names of these things, but it plugs. First of all, it's got a side-mounted charging port, because when you're gaming, of course, you don't want to be holding it and have the charging cable going through your fingers. So they have it coming down, and then they have Then they have active cooling, which plugs into that port, puts an active fan on the back, puts USB-C and a headphone jack on it. So you're cooling it while you're playing it, and you're charging it while you're playing it. They've done things like they put the charging IC outside the phone in the cord, or in the charger itself, so your phone isn't
like OnePlus, yeah.
Yeah, like OnePlus. But then they've got these cool peripherals. They've got this switch thing that clamps on. They've got a WiGig. It has 802.11.AD in it. I mean, who has AD in parts right now?
I didn't even know that.
They got AD. They've got an AD dock. They've got and then it gets even weirder. They've got sort of a continuum device. So you're playing PUBG Mobile with a mouse and keyboard as opposed to your thumbs, which is just that seems horribly unfair. First of all, it seems horribly unfair. And then they've even got a dual screen device. So you put your phone up here, and then they've got this other thing. It's like the Nintendo, was it a Game Boy?
DS.
DS. Thank you. The dual screen DS, right? And so you could watch your own Twitch stream comments while you're streaming off your phone.
Pretty smart.
It's just incredible. I mean, we don't have any idea of the price, but I mean, for a first generation,
right.
I mean, but seriously, for a first generation product, I mean, normally you see these things come out with one or two Moto mods, right? When the Moto mods came out, you saw a couple of these things come out.
Oh
and
yeah.
Then they vanished. They never saw them.
Yeah.
And maybe they won't ship them all too, but I mean, my God, I was just it was one thing after the other. I have no need for a gaming phone. I wanted a gaming phone. I wanted this. That looks fantastic.
I mean, I got to tell you, for pro users like us, I really enjoy having things that are hyper specific. A lot of the phones are starting to converge. They're pretty much the same. You don't get any differences. But I think a lot of these companies will be getting into niche marketing. Hey, do you want something with crazy cameras? All right, we got that over there. We've got 3 cameras on it. You want something that's heavy into gaming? You got Razer and now ROG. I like it. I like seeing diversification in phones, and I love big phones. So.
The back of the phone says something along the lines of augmented reality too. So I guess they have something like that coming along the pipe. Yeah, we asked them about that, and they said, "Oh,
they're like, shh,
we're not talking." Yeah, right. It's right. It was said we're not going to be talking about it right now. But,
interesting.
My God, yeah. And then it's been a jam-packed Computex. It really has. There's been tons of stuff.
Like Gordon, you went last year. How does it compare to last year's?
I got to say, last year we had Max-Q, we had Threadripper, and of course we had 7980X, so 18 core.
Right.
And so
it's up in the ante.
Up in the ante, but I got to say, it really did feel a little sort of deja vu all over again with Intel and AMD, the way they their beef is going. NVIDIA, of course, it is what it is. We'll get it when we deserve it. And
that's right.
Yeah. So I mean, but I got to say, I think this year the other stuff is cool. All the peripherals, all the coolers, all the cases, all the RGB is definitely more than last year. So I like it.
Sweet. Well, yeah, awesome. And I'm sure we'll do another recap next week for. When everyone's back in the studio. I'll actually be gone to E3, so I'm sure you guys will talk about that
Adam,
stuff too.
I hear that GeForce GTX 1180 is going to launch.
I can't confirm or deny if we're going to see it. We're not talking about it. But a couple more questions. One is serious, one is not. First, the not serious one. Everyone in YouTube chat is really wondering, what is that pink liquid you keep drinking, Gordon? Everyone thinks it's from wiper fluid to some crazy, powdered stuff in Taiwan.
To be cheap, I bought this at the 7-Eleven. I don't know what brand this is, but it has this weird taste to it. Like it's water. But it just has it's like
flavored water.
Filter this? No, I mean the water itself. It was clear, and it just had an odd taste to it. So I rather than pour it out, I added some Crystal Light that I brought with me to make it. But now I'm kind of wondering if maybe there's something wrong with the water, and I should just stop drinking it. But I'm still drinking it.
I'm sure the Crystal Light will take care of that.
Yes, great. And then to wrap it up, Morris Laurent, I don't know. He came in late, so he's wondering, where did you get that shirt, Gordon? And maybe you can tell him how he can get his own.
Well, so I went to the Led Zeppelin concert at AMD where they announced the Threadripper 2. This is, of course, highly a collectible special edition. So few of these T-shirts, my friend, were made that AMD employees that work the event, hardworking employees that are carrying all the load and all that stuff, and they didn't get them. All right, only the media got them and important partners of AMD. So I don't know. I mean, it feels like maybe they only had 50 of these shirts made. So the only chance that you will be able to score one of these special edition Threadripper 2nd generation shirts is the one we're going to give away. Again, I'm gonna point this out. We actually have this exact same shirt, another one not worn by me, so not sweaty, but it has been signed by Jim Anderson of AMD and Lisa Su of AMD, and we are going to be giving that shirt away. Yeah, sure, I know people want CPU, but I gotta say, if you are into collectible stuff, collectible shirt made even more collectible because it's signed. It is exactly like going to a concert and having Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth sign your shirt. You don't even know what I'm talking about because you're probably a millennial. This is a band called Van Halen. They were awesome. Look it up on YouTube.
I mean, if you're walking around Silicon Valley in this thing, you're going to be a rock god.
Yeah. I unfortunately I don't think I can enter, so I'm kind of boned. But
no employees do not get to enter, Adam.
Maybe whoever wins, I can email them again and say, hey, I'll offer you some cash. Just kidding. No, I'm not.
And it's one of the things you don't even wear. You just have it like put up with your sports memorabilia.
Like a jersey poster.
Yeah, right.
Jersey, yeah.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Then let's wrap it up, Gordon. Do you have your wrap up notes, or do you have it memorized?
I have it memorized.
Perfect.
See, not really. I have to look it up now. But it's on a browser. I'm not in the office. I've got this multiple things going on the screen. But I just found it. And check back next week for your fix of PC talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes and also leave a review. And if you don't believe me, every time somebody leaves a review for the Full Nerd, AMD and Intel add a new core to its CPU. Look at it. We're at 28 and 32. That's because you reviewed us on iTunes. Also, listen to us on Google Play or Stitcher. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@pcworld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Mark Hockman.
See you guys.
And Adam Patrick Murray is going to hit the off switch.
You guys need to go get some rest because we got much more of Computex and then a long flight back. So
that's
we'll
right.
See you guys later.
All right. Good night.